Lewis of The Athletic joins us. Welcome back, 10:06. Welcome back to the Vikings Entertainment Network and the radio studio at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in Eagan. Vikings practice today at 2:30. No practice yesterday. How was your day away from all that red-hot football action?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I was, you're catching up on calls with people that I have probably reached out that I need to talk to.
And how is Drew Rosenhaus?
Yeah. I actually did send Drew a text yesterday. I'll confirm that.
You got his number?
Of course.
Oh, that's nice.
Of course.
Do you have Tom Condon's number?
Tommy Condon Jr.
What about Sean McVay?
No, I don't have Sean McVay's number.
John Harbaugh?
No.
Okay. You can get that one when we go to MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, and you can get Jesse Minners when they come here for joint practices August 19th. No, it was a good off day.
Hey, Roquan, can I have your number?
Yeah, excuse me, Lamar. No, it was good. It was fun. Training camp's been fun. I've had a good time.
Me too. What do you think of Caleb Banks through the early stages?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the fact that he's been on the field and present is an extreme positive.
And it's been every step of the way he's present, right?
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, PA, you know that, and both of you guys have been out at practice. Like, that guy, I mean, the size and the ability to move at that size is I just haven't seen much of that in my lifetime of covering football or any other sport. So,
and I'm not being homerific with this. If I am, you're good about teasing me about it. But Caleb Banks, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Okay, would I shove a ton in on it? No, but he's 65-1. At 65-1, a little $10 spotty to scoop 660. That's not the worst thing in the world.
I mean, the fact that they've already mixed him in with the ones defensively, it's not every snap, it's not every team drill, but I do think that tells you what the vision ultimately will be. So yeah, I think really positive. I'll be curious if he plays in the preseason at all. I don't have any information on whether he would or wouldn't, but
I'm starting to think about that. Like Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, maybe Isaiah Rodgers, Byron Murphy. I'm just not Van Ginkel. I'm not sure those guys will play.
Yeah, it'll be really telling, I think, to see if after some of the previous years and how they've gone about it, do they want to shift that approach? What is the advantage or disadvantage of that? But I would just say, you asked about Banks. Like, the one thing that stands out throughout this camp for me is the rookies in general. I mean, whether you want to talk about Max Bredesen, who you had on the show, whether you want to talk about Jake Golday and what I've seen from him, Chuck Demmings is obviously the star of the show so far. I mean, I would just say the early returns on a lot of these guys are really, really positive, and that is and I think that's I think that's one of the early stories of this camp. I don't know what you guys are doing.
What if Brzezinski went mic drop on his only draft?
There we go.
Well,
what if the Briz draft's one of the greatest in the history of the team?
There we go.
I texted somebody the other day. I'm like,
Grand slam.
And I'm like, this is obviously a positive lens on it, but you just wonder if Rob Brzezinski, who has given his work life to this organization, oversaw the draft that charted the correct course for this organization into the future. Like, the poetry of that is unmistakable.
It's
like,
fantastic.
It just is. Now, it's really early, and I don't want to, I know we're getting probably ahead of the skis, but like, just objectively, if I go back and think about the previous draft classes for this team and the early returns on what that looked like, there's just a difference, and I can't mince words on that.
Talking about Caleb Banks and him, the physically imposing, I think I had texted you this, like, I bring my girls to camp. They felt like they were walking, they might as well have been walking on the moon when they saw Caleb Banks from 15 feet away, and it was warranted because that's something. Is he potentially, and our focus on that's a good thing, and hopefully Brzezinski did hit a grand slam because we're going to need some help from the kids. Does that potentially overshadow the production we've seen from And PA's mentioned him, Ingram Dawkins or Levi, etc. And Jalen Redmond was a name that we were obsessed with a year ago. Now he's got to go out and do it again, right? Yeah. And so as our focus on the number one pick, which is again reasonable to do so, we want that to show up and show up early. But are there some other good things happening on the defensive front that we should be privy to and focused on as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when they've played in training, this has been hilarious. The lights went off in here. When training camp, when they've played with the 5 down front, it's been a lot of Levi, Drake Rodriguez in the middle, and I felt like he's been pretty active. Jalen Redmond flashes every single day, and I continuously believe that the fact that he wears 61 misdirects some people both here and nationally from understanding kind of the wrecking, his ability to wreck shop. And then Dallas Turner has ripped around the edge throughout a lot of these practices. And I mean, we've talked about it. We talked about it all spring and summer. It's going to have to be a major year for Dallas Turner. That doesn't mean he has to be the hero of this defense. That's not how they really want to go about it. But I do think the defensive line and what they can do in terms of generating pass rush should be there as long as these guys stay healthy. And I think that's really important, like the durability and the health of the Van Ginkels, the Turners, the Cashmans. Probably can't talk enough about how important that's going to be.
Alec Lewis's inclusion, specifically when we begin the Friday football feast, provided by Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com.
Mentioning Dallas Turner, we'll just continue down this defensive bent here. I did love how B-Flow put it, that this is a defense that wins as a team. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily sitting in a room with Dallas and saying, I need 12 sacks out of you, right? The benchmarks will come if the plays are done correctly and the growth is there. Do we get any vibe in terms of how conscious Dallas is of not just this opportunity, but maybe you could look at it as a responsibility post Grenard, and the opportunity he's going to get is so massive, and forget about whoever the team could add at edge at some point with some cash in their pocket. Dallas has to know somewhere inside that year 3, I'm top of the depth chart now. I'm making plays, making moves, and this is a big spot for him.
Yeah, he talked the other day walking off the practice field, and I went in there to ask him some questions about defending the run game. And I would just say my impression standing there for 2 minutes, and so take it for what it's worth, his disposition just seemed like very business-minded, very, like, no nonsense. And for me, it stood a little bit in stark contrast of when he first walked in here. Not that he was wide-eyed. He came from Alabama, Nick Saban. He knew what was required. But I just feel like he has gotten to a place where 3 years, he's now entering his 3rd year. I think he understands the level at which he has to work, the level of expectation. And I think to your point, Nordro, about team defense, like that takes a level of selflessness and understanding of responsibility. I'm just really looking forward to seeing what it looks like for him this year, because the athleticism, the explosiveness has never been a question, and he's going to get more opportunities than ever to show improvements in technique as a pass rusher. It should be fun to watch.
It's 10:15, 9 to noon is at the Vikings Entertainment Network and the radio studio at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Alec Lewis, who covers the team for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, is our guest. And we have much more to get into with him, but first.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot at some bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. This hour's keyword is check. Like a Mike Check a 1212. The keyword is check. Enter it now at KFAN.com.
This is 9 to noon, live on iHeartRadio and KFAN, The Fan.
From the 1-800 Ask Gary Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored.
Do you happen to be watching Hard Knocks Seattle?
I watched the first episode.
What?
I made the marketing director watch it. I think she was not happy about that.
Okay. I mean, it's 9 to noon has never really had any disdain for the Seattle Seahawks. But what a cool vibe. I
my
mean,
goodness.
what an amazing facility on that lake. And just like, what a cool vibe they have, you know?
We've talked about this before, but that is my favorite trip. When the Vikings play there, there's just something about that place where it I mean, I don't need to go on a tangent here, but like, I do think that's so cool. One of the things I'm most grateful with the job is like, you get to see these different places. And Seattle just feels like a totally different part of the country that's awesome to see. But yeah, like the training camp, I mean, Mike McDonald is just so likable.
Fantastic.
Think he's very open about his awkwardness.
Thank you. I said that yesterday, and somebody texted me being like, bro, you just called him awkward.
No,
and I'm
he's self-admitted that that's how he is.
But his awkwardness leads to authenticity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how far I should go with this, but like in the first Hard Knocks, episode, there's like multiple really thick fights out on the field.
Yes.
And I just say this as like a scrawny guy who never played football, but like I love when teams fight like that.
Yeah.
I just think there's like a ruggedness to it.
But here's the problem, and I'm glad you said that, because I watched it Tuesday night, the first episode. I love Hard Knocks, HBO with the access, and even if it's like the Jets year was okay, but some are unbelievable, and I think this one's going to be unbelievable. So we watch it Tuesday, and you see Derek Hall and these super chickens like mixing it up, and
Robbie Outs.
Yep, yeah, and we got some legit fights going on. Well, we knew the next day, the Vikings, with that Wednesday practice, it was going to be high intensity, high velocity, and pads and long and the whole thing. And I'm like, all right, well, let's see if people mix it up here like they did in Washington. And there were no fights. And that's fine that there were no fights.
There was a little Brian O'Neill, Ivan Pace back and forth. I don't know if you saw that one.
I saw O'Neill and Ty Ingram Dawkins have a moment.
Okay. But like there's part of me that, and I know Kevin O'Connell, like they want to get stuff done and you only have a finite amount of time on the field. So I understand the coaches are like, we don't have time for these shenanigans.
Right.
But I do think the temper's flowing sometimes is kind of necessary. But then also on Hard Knocks, I'll just say this, like, I don't know. I enjoyed that year in the arc of Sam Darnold. Like, it was just fun to watch a guy who had the narratives around him be what they were, find success. And then I think I've said this on the radio with you, but when we went to Seattle last year after that game, I remember we're like snaking the tunnels as a media group, going to the locker room, and somehow Sam Darnold just popped out. And like, he probably had no business, after the playoff game, the wild card loss, it was pretty rough. He had no business being nice to us, but he shook everybody's hands in the tunnel last year. And I have so much respect for that guy. So it's just, I don't know. It's cool to see a guy be at peace with it, like where he is in his career.
Do a week from today, or a week from tonight, do you plan to crush all that is Greenwich Village?
I'm going to be in New York. Did I tell you that?
You stay in New York? Because we stay in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, I'm in the city.
Oh, so you're going to crush Greenwich.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to be in Brooklyn. And
it's a noon game or a 1 p.m. game the next day.
Can you imagine me in New York? I mean, it's too much.
So wide-eyed.
It's the subway. I mean, it's just there's too much going on.
Dropping 50 in Times Square and learning it's oregano.
Like, Nordo's laughing because I know there's taxis, there's honking, the billboards. It's for me.
I'm going to try it again. Dropping 50 in Times Square only to learn it's oregano.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, Nordo does.
Have you ever been to NYC? You have not?
No, yeah, of course.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, of course.
So, okay, but you'll have a blast there, man. And I love the neighborhoods because of all the big buildings and as massive as it is. Greenwich Village feels like its own area. Gramercy Park, and you can jump into Soho. You can just cruise all the way up. The only place in New York City that I haven't had a blast in, I hate Times Square. Outside of that, if I can jump into Northern Midtown, get up by the park and stuff, man, I envy you. You're going to have a blast down there, man.
It's going to be fun.
Watch out for the oregano, though.
And honestly, like, I've had people like, the preseason game's not going to be that, who knows? But I'm like, well, last time I was there, I watched Jackson Dart throw like 3 for 17 with 30 yards.
Yeah.
So, I think the production should be similar.
Yeah. And so I started working on the Giants a little bit last night, and with Dart.
That's impressive.
And, you got to get these numbers down. There are just so many. And I'm still struggling with Terrell Davis and Michael Briscoe here, so I probably should focus on 46 before Scattaboo. But I'm wondering who the Giants are going to play. I mean, I don't. This quick twitch, any idea what John Harbaugh does with
I haven't gone down that road yet.
I'll spend the weekend figuring it out. But Malik Neighbors, no chance he plays.
I would be
Dexter Lawrence, no chance.
Well, Dexter Lawrence is on the Bengals, so that would be hard.
Oh, that's right. You did go to the Bengals. Holy cow.
Yeah. But no, Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. But Scattaboo. I mean, I'd like to see him. He's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see him for sure. He might do a backflip if he scores a touchdown on the...
Is it Scattaboo or Scattaboo?
Scattaboo.
Yeah, you come for Scattaboo and you leave talking about Tyrone Tracy Jr.
There's a lot of hype on the Giants.
Hype on the Giants?
There's been a lot of hype about Harbaugh.
Their coach is the bomb.
I'll be looking forward to seeing if they're as good as people are talking about.
I mean, puncher's chance to get a wild card? Probably not.
You're not talking to the most rosy Giants viewer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com. Now, Alec's story, and is the run game story your most recent, the underrated bit?
No, I had some this morning on Chuck Dimmings,
okay,
but yesterday went pretty deep on the run game.
Yeah, Alec's story on the importance of the Minnesota Vikings running game is, it's fantastic. And, there are a lot of people quoted in it. Instead of writing down some of these quotes that just absolutely blew me away. The way Alec framed things up. I took screenshots of them so I could read them accurately.
Thank you.
For instance, when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings running game, Alec writes, optimally, it's like a massive tidal wave washing over the defensive line or a bullet train 5 men wide approaching at maximum velocity. During team drills in training camp, when the Vikings snap the football, the offensive linemen spring from their stances and sprint, as if they're being chased by German shepherds. While fans rattle the metal bleachers to improve their sight lines on the quarterback, the linemen blast into pads with huffs and grunts straight out of an NFL films montage. Then you get into Keith Carter yelling at people. That's some elite pros right there.
Here's the deal.
Have you ever been described as whimsical?
He's whimsical.
There's playful. You're imaginative.
Yeah,
there's a fanciful manner in which you articulate your ideas in relation to the Vikings.
Alec likes imagery.
Yeah,
100%.
You like imagery a lot.
When you're reading, you should be able to conjure pictures in your mind.
Yeah.
The best way to do that is dialogue. The best way to do that is strong verbs. But here's the deal. The most important subject at this Vikings training camp that nobody's talking about.
So you're telling us the reality. Here's the reality.
Here's the reality.
Is not your whimsical writing style?
Yeah, I've
it's
been
not
waiting
about
60
my writing.
years for the reality.
I know.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. Go ahead.
Everyone is focused on this quarterback hoopla.
I need a pen and a pad.
And I understand why. But the most important subject that people aren't focusing on is this overhauled run game.
Yeah.
Now, people listening to this are probably thinking, Alec, I've heard for 4 years how they want to improve the run game. They're going to commit more to the run game. And I understand those perspectives.
Yeah.
But this year in particular, they have made more of a foundational change than they have made the rest of Kevin O'Connell's time here.
Yeah.
Whether that produces results, we are all going to find out together.
Yep.
But there is a difference, and it is visible to the way they are teaching the O-line to run off the ball, to the way they are orchestrating the run game in terms of the discipline of running back tracks and quarterback handoffs. And then they are incorporating motion, shifts, creativity in that phase at a level that I have not seen here since I've covered this team.
See, I may need to see the forest for the trees because, I'm not on social media as much as some other people, but with you and Gessling and Dane Mizutani and Kevin Seifert. Let's just put all of the elite beats in the palm of a hand, metaphorically. That's all. We talk about it a lot. So we bandy that about a lot. So maybe I'm not looking at it as under the radar as truly it is with the public. And that's why I completely agree with you.
Well, you've talked about it in terms of the Frank Smith, part of it.
Frank Smith effect.
You've mentioned it.
I felt it in Bloomington when I was driving here today.
Is this like lake effect snow off of Michigan here?
Corn sweat.
People think it's RAIN falling on Egan right now. No, it's REIGN. It's the Frank Smith effect.
The way I've analogized what analogize?
So what is analogous with?
Yes. The way that the Vikings are looking at this is in many ways kind of the football version of what the Wolves did in acquiring LaMelo Ball. Because defenses load up so much on Justin Jefferson, really the only way to force them out of that is to make them make decisions in terms of where they're allocating their bodies.
Yep.
If you run the football better, you're going to have a better chance of defenses putting more bodies near the line of scrimmage, which opens up more space for the passing game. So that's the thought behind all this. How quickly it comes together and gels is the question. Like if you talk to people throughout the league who are familiar with this run scheme, they will tell you that it can take time. And the Vikings don't have a ton of time because they want to win right now, which also dovetails with the quarterback conversation. Yeah. So I'll be really fascinated to see. But having talked to players and staff, there is no question that there is a difference to how they are going about this. And so it's worth discussing the way we have.
All right, so I want to contextualize it and go back to the combine because that's what you did in your story. And that really was the baseline of this. And I had forgotten Kevin O'Connell said this. And just from what you know about football or remember him saying this, he wants a vertical wide zone running game. Is the vertical part being able to throw?
No.
Okay, so what is like what
the vertical part is playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. So rather than running a wide zone where your offensive line are kind of horizontal and they're thinking on the fly after the snap, it's just stop the thinking, move the line of scrimmage as aggressively, as physically as possible. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why they didn't renew the contract of Chris Cooper, the former offensive line coach, and they promoted Keith Carter, who spent time with Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta and spent time with Matt LaFleur in Tennessee. So he understands
that's the bomb.
Kind of the way they teach the run game. You marry that with Frank Smith, who spent time with Mike McDaniel, formerly Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. So there is a shared language in the way that Frank Smith and Keith Carter know how to talk about this stuff.
That's phenomenal.
So that was the impetus for Kevin O'Connell hiring Frank Smith as assistant head coach and promoting Keith Carter. Now, again, wanting to do it and doing it and committing it to it over and over, I think that's where we will all find out. But if you can generate 10 to 12-yard chunks in the run game, you are going to, and I laugh saying this, force defenses into a pick-your-poison circumstance.
No, you're right. But Kyler being able to run occasionally but effectively, the example I use is like you don't see it for 2 or 3 games, then it's a series of 2nd and 8s and 2nd and 9s. And, where'd that come from? He just ran for 11. Quarterbacks running for first downs break backs and it breaks spirits. So if this vertical wide over the other side of the line of scrimmage, if it's high end how they want it to be, and you use this quarterback right with his runs, you can't double you can't double him.
Well, and if you do, then there's going to be a lot of room. For Kyler, for the running backs, for the offensive line. And here's the other.
This is exciting.
There's many, and I said this maybe on the show 2 months ago. You could recall the audio. I said, if you are an optimist about the Vikings in 2026, this element of all of it is the reason that you should be the most optimistic. Now, Jordan Mason, the other thing, you've seen him out there. Nordo, you saw him out there. He looks slimmed down. He looks really good. He also learned the NFL system in this style of run game in San Francisco. So he is very familiar with what he's walking into.
Oh, we're going to get to him momentarily. The question you asked him, that's the final part of this because it's the best. So You're going to love this. So Christian Darrisaw told Alec, who Alec asked the left tackle about the running game, and part of the quote was, quote, "It's night and day different. You can feel it." So like what do you think Darrisaw meant there?
I mean, so because I'm going to try to explain this where it's not so scheme heavy and your eyes glaze over.
Yeah, like those two boxed graphs you had in there with motion percentages and everything.
Yeah.
I took a screenshot of that and I deleted it immediately. It was too hard to explain.
So because defenses try to stop the Vikings run, I'd say that because opposing defenses have to load up so much on the pass game, they have to get creative in how they stop the run game, which involves slanting and moving and all these creative ways to stop the run game. And so in the past, the Vikings offensive line has had to sort out all this slanting and moving and everything on the fly. That requires a lot of thinking. Now, because of the way they're playing, it's just run off the ball. We don't have to fix every problem after the snap. Just fire off the ball and move men, and the running backs will make the correct decisions.
Yeah.
And so it just allows these big bodies like Christian Darrisaw to play with physicality and to play the way they want to play, which is fast.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, the right tackle, Brian O'Neill, quoted in the same story. We're talking about an Alex story from The Athletic and theathletic.com about a facet of Minnesota Vikings football that is designed to help them win a lot of games, take pressure off Justin Jefferson, and it's under the radar, which I completely agree with. Brian O'Neill, the right tackle, quote, "When able to run well, we seem to win more games. That's kind of how it's always been in the NFL." I'm really glad he said that, the last part, and I'm really glad you put it in the story. Because I talked to somebody after they lost that wild card game to the Rams, and remember, you got
how is Curtis Modkins?
You have Tyler Higbee here. You got something called Davis Allen there, another tight end, and Kyron Williams, and so on. And the way they used those tight ends and the way they meshed it with their running backs, somebody said to me, you know, in this pass happy game, it's age old that if you have the right kinds of tight ends and you can run the ball, you're going to win a lot of games no matter how much the rules change and things morph. And here's O'Neill saying that's kind of how it's always been in the NFL. I'm really glad he said that.
I mean, and it's also like, it's not saying that running the ball is more efficient than throwing the ball or more explosive than throwing the ball. It's actually not. I mean, throwing the ball is much more explosive, and it's much easier to score points when you throw the ball effectively. But the better you run, the more space there is to throw.
Yeah.
So it all really ties together. That's why when Kevin O'Connell took this job in 2022, he talked about the illusion of complexity and marrying the run and the pass. And I would say the run and the pass. And I would say over the last 4 years, the marriage has not been perfect with this offense between the run and the pass. And if this goes right, it will be as good of a marriage as it's been, which will only help the offense reach heights that they haven't been able to reach. That's at its best if it is perfect, and we'll see if it is.
And now the end of this story with Jordan Mason. And just stop smiling, Nordo, and see if I can make you laugh with the way Alec wrote this.
Okay.
It made me laugh in the Canterbury press box last night when I was writing this. Jordan Mason was asked how much this reminds him, this whole rushing approach. Jordan Mason was asked how much this reminds him of the respected and effective San Francisco running game.
Oh, Shanahan.
Alec wrote, quote, "His eyes widened. He smiled."
That's whimsical.
Imagery.
He didn't need to say anything.
I can picture that exchange.
Yeah, 2,000 years ago, you would have written a book in the Bible with all of this imagery. I'm not kidding you, man.
I
love it.
When I write, like, you know, I could write really boring in the run game and numbers on, but like
his eyes widened.
When
he
people,
smiled.
especially in this day and age, because people have a hard time, you know, if you're reading a story, I see the average time people spend on stories.
Oh.
It's not a lot.
Really?
So I want it to feel like you're seeing something. I want it to feel like you're watching a movie or not. Like that's the fun part of it for me.
That's Alec Lewis, The Athletic, and theathletic.com. We, unbeknownst to him, we're going to request he sticks around another segment because it's going to be fun. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start playing the numbers game. And I got, with a right to change it and a right to change our opinions as preseason and training camp rolls on, I have 25 offense, 25 defense. Normally it's a 26-24 one way or the other, and then you put the 3 specialists in, and I'm still wondering who the punt returner is. So I want to start playing this numbers game with you around the corner from Eagan at the Vikings facility with Alec Lewis from The Athletic and Nordo, producer of 9 to Noon. I'm Paul Allen. It's 10:40. Happy Friday to you. This is the Friday Football Feast on KFAN.
This is 9 to Noon, live on iHeartRadio and...
All right, so for the numbers, very low key. Offensive line, I just low key jotted down 9.
That sounds good.
Gerhardt practice squad.
Yeah.
Okay, so the starters, then Juergens, Vandemark, Huber, Tiernan.
Juergens, Vandemark, Huber, Tiernan. Yeah, that
sounds all right.
I mean, as far as like Huber, Henry Bird, I mean, there's probably a few vying. Walter Rouse probably vying there, but
okay.
Yeah, 9 feels fair.
See, the tight end situation is it's a wild card for me. Simply because you have Oliver and Hawkinson. Okay, Bartholomew is splashing.
Yeah.
Teasley didn't draft him, but he didn't play last year. Teasley or Brzezinski didn't draft him, but he didn't play last year. But so let's start there. Gavin Bartholomew, with the pads on especially, has had a pretty good camp, right?
Yeah, he's caught a ton of passes. I mean, running routes, he looks pretty, twitchy, I would just say. He's got some movement ability, some range catching the football. As a run blocker, that's where I want to see it. How much can he provide in that phase?
Okay.
Because it's an important part of that position.
Well, so do you feel with the tight ends, including now Bredesen's going to be on the team? So that's a fullback who may not line up as a tight end per se, but he can be an H-back. So he can count into that number while putting him in a different spot. Marshall Lang, okay? Now, Marshall Lang, 81. We're going to see him in the preseason games. I had no idea who he was. And I'm not saying that he's going Kellen Winslow on these camps, but it was there are a handful of moves Nolan Teasley has made in the last 2 months in small change. One of them was Marshall Lang, who was on the Seattle practice squad. So Lang on the active roster, yes, I get it's a long shot, but it's kind of throwing me off a little bit, given the potential adoration that Teasley has for him, and he looks good. I mean, when you look at him and watch him run and stuff, he's big and he's fast. So I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I've seen enough to feel confident saying things one way or another. I think that's where the preseason games should potentially iron some of that stuff out. Right. But yeah, I mean, Ben Urasek got some snaps last year, or Urasek. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is.
Yeah, Dane said Urasek the other day, and it might be Urasek.
I mean, the Alabama in me might just say Urasek.
That's all I said on the radio the whole year last year.
Urasek?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wes Phillips said last year they called him the Big Pole. Maybe Polish, Urasek. I don't really know.
Yeah, Wes can go ahead and go with that. I ain't going with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so with wide receivers, now you got Addison, Jefferson, Juwan Jennings, Ty Felton. So and Miles Price will count as a wide receiver, right? Now, so does it need to stop there?
Does it need to stop there?
Will it stop there at 5?
I think that's a good question. There are some other fringe guys. Your Dante Fleming, undrafted player out of Tulane 2 years ago. Jaysean Jones has been around for a long time, knows the offense, has looked pretty good. But I mean, if it is just those 5, I don't think I'm going to be that surprised by it.
All right, so running backs, including Bredesen, I got it to 5. with Mason, Jones, Claiborne, Bredesen, and Xavier Scott.
Yeah, it's a lot. But, I mean, Scott has had a role on special teams. And then Damon Claiborne, like, I wouldn't say you've seen a ton from him, but I know from the draft how much they like Damon Claiborne and have invested in Damon Claiborne.
Well, I think it's a cinch.
Yeah, so I can't fathom the idea that he would, you know, that wouldn't happen. And then Max Bredesen, like, he's going to have Max Bredesen's going to have a role offensively.
He's active every game.
Yeah, you see him.
I think Claiborne's active every game.
I mean, we will see about just how he comes along, but there's just no denying the explosiveness and the speed. You can watch these pre-practice drills where they're weaving through cones, and he just stands out. Like, he just objectively.
Quarterbacks, I have three. I have the obvious three with the Brosmer practice squad. Do you think that's a cinch, or do you think, Well,
I think the most important question for me right now is when Kevin O'Connell makes the thing official that's pretty abundantly clear at this point, that Kyler Murray's going to start the season. How does J.J. McCarthy react to that? How do the people around him respond and react to that?
How does his agent react?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, looking ahead now, is probably the most interesting question.
A fair point. Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com. Well, in a roundabout way, laying in, laying out, stuff like that got me to 25. Defensive line, I get down to Loudermilk, okay? And, I mean, he played 5.
You usually get down to Loudermilk.
69, played more games for Pittsburgh as a rotational defensive lineman than I knew.
Sure.
So, and I've watched him, and I can't say that I'm watching every move he makes, but it just seems like he belongs in a rotation. I could be wrong, but Redmond, Banks, Citrus, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Ingram Dawkins, then you get to Elijah Williams and Loudermilk.
Yeah.
So that
But Ingram Dawkins can kind of be considered edge-ish right now.
But he's not doing any of that, is he?
No, they've had him in kind of like sometimes they'll play in training camp with these like 4 down fronts with one guy standing up on the edge.
Yep.
And so Ingram Dawkins will kind of be like 3-point stance as like a 5 technique. So they've had him in like an interesting little role. Mm-hmm. But Elijah Williams, I mean, this is where the preseason games are going to be interesting. Like, does Elijah Williams, the Morgan State product who made the team last year, show up more than he did, as much or more as he did last year? Like, that's a position group to watch.
Yep. Okay. But Isaiah Loudermilk is not a stretch to put him in that mix,
no,
right?
I'd say of the like veterans in that mix of your Eric Johnson of the world, Loudermilk is
and Johnson the second has played like 51 games.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he and Loudermilk are in that same bucket of guys who have played, guys who, if you need him to stop the run in a pinch, you probably feel pretty okay.
And isn't there a Ritzy?
Javari Ritzy, there's Taki Taimani in there. I mean, we could go real in the weeds here.
Yeah, Ritzy's had some good moments.
I mean, Smith Vilbert's still out there, certainly.
Right. Edge, Gink, Turner, Chambliss, Richter, special teams related. Now I got Golday inside for the numbers. But you got those 4.
What about Batty?
And Tyler Batty. Yes, put Tyler Batty in there too. But do you think they add one?
I mean, I still think, even though Eric Wilson can play some edge, even though Jake Golday has looked pretty good thus far, finding somebody, the hard part is finding somebody who has been productive, who is going to be okay not being the guy, because Dallas Turner is the guy at that pass rusher spot. So I would be shocked if there's not an addition there, just because I feel like it's really necessary.
Inside, Wilson, Cashman, Ivan Pace Jr., Jamal Adams, and Jake Golday.
That feels like a lot.
Does it?
I mean, Ivan Pace's role on special teams matters to talk about.
Yeah,
Jamal Adams,
that Bears game last year.
Jamal, that was really bad. Jamal Adams, I'm still looking forward to seeing like how they maybe if he plays in preseason games, where he's lining up. I think that's going to be interesting to me. But
Nordo said that earlier. I agree.
Yeah, but Golday, I mean, Golday has looked really good. And then Cashman, like I will say this, PA, Cashman's in the final year of his contract. He's from here. From everything I understand, he wants to be here. is there going to be an extension there? If there's not, what does that look like into the season? That is a little conversation that I've had my eyes on.
Okay, so Adams on the prove it deal, off major injury and position switch. He's no cinch. But again, it's Teasley has identified the Trayvon Rudolphs and the Marshall Langs and players like this and brought him in. And I'm not saying he's going to fix the race because he's the GM, but I think it does help Jamal, don't you?
Oh, no question.
Okay.
The relationship they've had. But I also don't think that comes with any guarantees. I mean,
agreed.
You know how this goes. There are times where, executives, GMs do players and their agents solids. It help like there is very much a relational feel to some of this stuff. So we'll just
Who
see.
is Adams' agent? Any idea?
Jamal Adams' agent, I believe, is with Clutch Sports.
Okay.
Martin Fishman might be the name.
That's all. Yeah. Okay. And finally, DBs. Rogers, Murphy Jr., Pierre, Demings, Metellus, Theo Jackson, Jacoby Thomas, Tavaire Thomas, and Jay Ward.
What about Jacob Thomas?
I'm struggling with that.
The undrafted safety out of James
struggling
Madison.
with that because he's looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of him in the preseason next to Jacoby Thomas out there.
Yeah.
Tavier has been a special teams guy that they valued. So
Well, he led him in special teams tackles last year.
yeah, and then I think the Harrison Smith thing is still looming.
Yeah.
Like I still think that's still an undecided circumstance.
Now, specialists. Serpo, the Alabama kid.
Will Reichard is his name.
Will Reichard. Thorson.
Whoa! What about Johnny Hecker?
I mean, it's a battle. And they're both going to punt.
I'm looking forward to watching those two in the preseason game.
I had no idea how Brett Thorson is the Ray Guy winner from last year.
Oh, yeah.
That matters. I'm putting some time into him yesterday. Have you ever seen the 75-yard punt he had against Tennessee?
Of course.
In 2022?
Of course.
So now we're raised in Darren Bennett, Aussie-like fashion. So now we're watching these punts here at the facility. And you got the straight, hard spiral Wisnowski mortar shot. You have the bit.
How is Tressway?
Yeah. You have the bit that spins left and right.
The banana.
Yeah, the banana. Yeah. You got like 4 different ones. Hecker's into his 15th year.
The holding part of it is it's like a funny inside the baseball training camp.
No, it
thing.
matters, right?
But yeah, the holding.
Yeah,
and I think that's where again the preseason games are going to provide those guys opportunity. And if Brett Thorson, I mean, he was sought after in undrafted free agency. So I think it'll be pretty interesting.
Well, he was the bomb at Georgia. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he won the Ray Guy.
Yes, but he was consistently really good for 3 years. And Hecker. He had a career high in touchbacks last year with 7.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean it has to be that way this year, but he's heading into his 15th year.
But he can throw.
This is right. This is the, who says Thorson can't?
I don't know. I haven't asked.
I haven't either. But anyway, so I think that's interesting. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at the numbers as of now.
Yeah, I would say there's no crazy, surprise. I still think that edge rusher spot
I think Ritzy is low-key needs to be considered.
Interesting.
Jabari, maybe?
I can't wait to, this is a sad comment, but just watch the film of some of these guys in preseason games. Because
you were tweeting about the fourth quarter of the Hall of Fame game last night. There are no sad comments.
Did you see Haynes King? I mean, oh my goodness. But no, I will be very interested to just watch these guys.
Does MD know how lucky she is, honestly?
I don't know.
You got anything over there?
So when we're talking about these kids, though, and a lot of these kids are going to be on the final 53, has there been any moment where the pads coming on changed maybe a view that you had of a player? Because as I'm out of my mind in love with Jake Golday, does that look different? And I think for the most part, it's been pretty consistent with him when the pads come on, but kind of changes. It's not totally direction of wind. You got to back yourself out from a play-by-play standpoint, but just pads coming on and whether that has impacted some of these growth trajectories.
No, I would say Big Citrus definitely don't feel like I've seen a lot of him specifically with the ones or just making eye-popping plays, but I would be lying if I said that I'm focused on defensive line movement and not on the quarterbacks and how that's looked. So, again, that's where I expect the preseason games to add a layer and variable and data point that's going to be important.
Well, the goal day scenario is fascinating because it's if you believe they draft him to be G-I-T, Gink in training. Yet then you get intel or maybe some thoughts that, you know what, he's probably not going to play a lot of defense to start, probably a lot of special teams. And even though he's lanky and, we're raising him to be a new Gink type, he's going to play inside. And then all of a sudden you put the pads on and you get here for training camp and he's edge guy.
Well, I mean, there was a play where J.J. McCarthy, like last week, had a keeper, may have been Saturday, a keeper bootleg, and he tried to, to throw a fastball by Jay Golday. Golday tips it. It's picked off from Cashman. You're just like, I mean, you talk about like the Gink vision of it. I have a hard time thinking anybody can just become Andrew Van Ginkel because I have so much reverence for the guy's mental acumen and ability. But the early returns on Jake Golday make it more understandable why they did that as opposed to a center, which was a conversation at that time. So,
well, see, but here's the fascinating part. Just when it gets loudest because the beats, the fans, and everybody, the announcers all seeing this Golday stuff off the edge and blows up Hawkinson on a play the other day. Well, then what's the next phase with him? Because we're big context guys. Well, the next practice, let's test him in the Tampa 2 drop. And then now you're seeing receivers behind him and he's late and he's putting his arms out like my bad. So the raising the kids on the fly is so wonderfully fascinating.
Yeah, but the fact that Brian Flores, who has deferred to veterans at every turn since he's been here with the Vikings, has trusted these guys enough already to have them out there, I think tells you as much as you need to know as anything. So,
you know why? Because Brzezinski hit a grand slam.
Yeah, the Briz draft might be the greatest in the history of the Minnesota Vikings.
The amount of I've already gone down that path of if this draft becomes one of the best they've had in recent memory and helps them course correct in terms of how they want to spend financially. I mean, Rob Brzezinski will probably never get enough credit for what he shepherded them through, but
he will 9 to noon. It's not sit in your office, shut up, and work that abacus. It's, bro, you just killed it from Banks through Gerhardt. Let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I like Chuck Demings. I mentioned it. Like I wrote about him for this morning, and you don't want to make too much of it, but like the guy,
he fits.
He brings energy, and I've said since Cam Bynum left, the celebrations were a lot, and a lot of people you can make too much of it.
Yeah.
But I do think
it's a movie.
But I do think it is, and I do think some of the joy of that. It flows throughout a team as much as it does become kind of a, maybe a look at me circumstance. Like I do think there's joy in that stuff.
But here's
Chuck Demings brings that.
But see, here's the prescient nature or the awareness that I'm really liking about Charles Demings. Are we going with Chuck, by the way, or can it be Charles?
Flores called him Chuck D.
Okay, Chuck D. All right.
Public enemy, though.
Exactly.
Opponent enemy, for sure.
I love that. So you can go gangster on teams. So here's Pierre has that great first practice. Okay? I mean, he's full speed. Jefferson's half, 3/4 speed. Bro, I mean, what are you doing? Well, I don't have the money you have. I'm trying to find a way to play. Pierre was awesome on Jefferson that first practice. Well, then he walks away with Duhamel and the training staff at the end, and we don't see him for 3/4 of a week. Here's what I like.
How is Connor Wicker?
Here's what I like about Demings. He smelled the blood in the water. It's with respect.
Yeah.
That guy ain't here. He may say he doesn't have Jefferson money. I don't have Pierre money. So if you're gone, I'm taking your money. And Demings did the very best he could to jump up, open eyes, and be like, if this guy ain't here, you can trust me.
And the question I would ask is, when was the last time this was the cornerback conversation? Like, oh, could that guy who looks pretty good push that other guy who looks pretty good? As opposed to, what are they going to do if that guy gets hurt? That's kind of a different conversation. And I ran through in my story today all of the cornerbacks drafted since Xavier Rhodes, and it made me need to go walk and get water because I'm going through Tocho and Harrison Hand and Trey Waynes.
Harry Hand.
Mekhi
Blackman, by the way, is still on the Colts.
He absolutely is. But there were about 11 names that I wrote down in a row, and again, it required a little pacing. But
that's great.
But yeah, sorry.
And with Deming's hair, multicolored as it is, and Juwan Jennings and his hair, multicolored as it is.
Has he gone purple?
It behooves the Wolves to sign Dennis Schroeder. We have to have Schroeder in this market.
Well, Schroeder's played for every other team, so why wouldn't he join? No, I'm not sure if you need the shots being taken by Schroeder when you got Ant and LaMelo.
All right, you're the best. Have a great day, okay?
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
You too. Alec Lewis at Alec_Lewis VX. Please follow if you're so inclined. Covers the Vikings for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. We're into the final hour of the presentation. News du Nord's around the corner. And then after that, we will finalize today's version of Two-A-Days. We did the Lions in the opening segment with their Vox, and we'll do the Buffalo Bills at about 11:20, 11:25. After that, the Owl Roofing post game, and then we head into the weekend together. Don't leave.